Hey everybody, this is Maxine Taylor with my September 2020 Trumpology report. Well, things are just getting crazier and crazier. Many of you have reminded me that, several months ago when before the summer eclipses, I talked about this time period. And I said, we are not going to know who to believe. And of course, that has played out enormously. Uh, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Uh, what I'm going to do is give you Trump's forecast, the United States forecast for September, and we will watch the whole reality show play out. All right, so let's start with Trump, and then I'll do the United States chart. All right. Month of September for Trump. First of all, the sun, center of life, the giver of life, has been in his first house of his personality and his temperament. And when the sun is in your first house, it's all about you. Well, you can see, and I know some of you are saying, well, it's always about him. Well, it's more so. And it's going to continue through September, and that's just how it is. On the 15th of September, however, the sun enters his second house of money. And all of his financial issues then, I shouldn't say all of them, but when the sun is in your second house, you're focused on your money. Now, the sun sheds a glowing, beneficent light on things. So what you want to do is interpret this from where Trump is looking at it, not where you are. That will make it understandable for you. Okay, does that make sense? So on the 15th, the sun enters his second house of money, and he can create a lot more money, absolutely a lot more money. His own values will come into play even more while he's on the campaign trail. And on the 28th, the sun sits on his Neptune. Now, Neptune rules his eighth house of other people's money. And Neptune is a very, I call it nebulous, nefarious Neptune. It's a very elusive planet. Think of Neptune as trying to grab a handful of smoke. You can't do it. And so if he is asked about his finances, there's going to be a certain amount of nebulousness, maybe nefariousness, obfuscation for sure, wishful thinking probably. And because the eighth house deals with other people's money, this is a time that he may create more money through his nebulous deals. Certainly they will surface on whatever level. Now, that is what we have so far for the month of September when it comes to his second house. I'm going to talk about it again when I get to Mercury. But before that, I want to talk about the full moon that we're going to have on the 2nd of September. It's in 10 degrees Pisces. It's in his 7th house of other people, litigation, the public. All those three things are tied up in this house. And Pisces can be somewhat idealistic. It rules Neptune. So there we are again. I'm looking at his actual chart when I look over here. So if I'm not looking at you, it's not that I'm, watching children playing outside. I've got his chart here. So the full moon in his 7th house involves contracts. It involves litigation. It can bring Melania into the picture. It's other people. It's contracts. And it's getting out there and shaking hands one-on-one. And because the full moon is in Pisces, it's either divine inspiration or total confusion. You know how that goes. Okay, 2 weeks later, after the dark of the moon, we have a new moon, and it falls in Trump's second house of money. One more time. On the 17th of the month, it's in 25 Virgo, and it is sitting right there on activating all that second house again. Yes, on Neptune, of course. Okay. Now, I'm going to pick up with Mercury because it's very, very interesting. Mercury is what we think about and talk about. And it is in his second house of money. It triggers both Neptune and Jupiter. And Jupiter co-rules his eighth house of other people's money, secrets. Neptune rules the eighth house, other people's money, secrets, transformation, but money through hidden means that he receives, or divine inspiration, which he receives. So it's very, very interesting. So on the 9th, Mercury triggers Neptune, certain amount of wishful thinking about his money, new ideas on how to create money or deal with the money that he has. On the 17th, Mercury sits on Jupiter, and he's got all kinds of clearer ideas now on his money through speculation, perhaps through dealings with other people. On the 20th, Mercury moves into his third house of communication. And believe it or not, he will be more talkative than ever. Okay, that so far, second house all over the place. Mars, as many of you know, is going to go retrograde on the 10th of the month. Now, Mars retrograde is not, for example, like a Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde confuses everything. Mars is action. Mars is energy. Mars rules what we put our attention on and make number one. When it goes retrograde, the energy flatlines. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Everything is on pause. In his ninth house that deals with international communication, travel, he wants to get out there and expand his horizons, but there may be slowing down in that area while Mars is retrograde. Mars will stay retrograde until November 14th. That's quite a while. It's after the election. In addition, when it comes out of retrograde, it's going to be in the shadow of the retrograde and will not come out of the shadow till January 4th of next year, of course. So, long distance interaction, communication, it may not go exactly the way he might like. And it is a bigger picture that he is seeing. He wants to expand his domain. And that won't happen truly until after the election and after the ballots are counted. Mars retrograde until the 14th of November can have an impact on when the ballots are finished being counted. I'm kind of, you hear what I'm not saying. Okay, so we may not know the outcome of the election for a while. That's not a surprise, and this would explain why. Now, on election day, let me remind you, Mercury goes direct, and there's a big change in the energy. Confusion, which makes perfect sense. And the most obvious area of confusion is the counting of the ballots. Very, very important that everybody go out and vote and that the ballots are handled ethically and honorably. Okay, now let's take a look at, see, I've already gotten ahead of myself till November. Let's take a look at Venus, the planet of love and beauty. It is in his 11th house of friends and group activities. In the United States chart, the 11th house deals with Congress. In Trump's chart, it can also deal with Congress. It deals with his friends. Venus brings happiness, beauty, love, joy, just all the good stuff, wherever it is. And so in his 11th house of friends, Venus is sitting there. On the 1st of September, it sits on Saturn. Now, Saturn in the 11th house, as I've mentioned before, deals with old friends, deals with all of his relationships. So what we're looking at with Venus on Saturn is he would probably be calling on his old friends to help him out. On the 2nd of September, Venus sits on Venus. The Venus that's orbiting sits on his natal Venus. And for those of you who study astrology, his transiting Venus is on his natal Venus. He's having a Venus return. This brings happiness, beneficence, all the good stuff. So if he's looking for money, he'll be able to get it. If he's looking to enhance his public image, he will get that too. And he may be speaking kind words from the podium. Okay, on the 7th, Venus moves into his 12th house of behind the scenes activities, things that he wants to remain hidden. And so I don't know if he's going to stay on the campaign trail while Venus is in his 12th house, probably so. But with Venus bringing love and abundance and all the good stuff to his 12th house of hidden enemies, hidden situations, things the public is not privy to. When it's on his Pluto, which rules his 4th house, there is perhaps a loving shakeup in family or real estate matters. There is an excitement. Venus is love. Venus is positive. Pluto is control or transformation. And that's why I'm interpreting this positively. That's the 15th. When Venus sits on his Mars, action, energy, passion, we have a love-hate situation. We have delightful happiness and excitement going on behind the scenes, which is terrific. Mars co-rules his 4th house. So just repeat what I said. And I'm looking at his birth chart. It rules long distance communications that are private. Pluto will be private family situations. Mars will be communication, transportation that he is happy about that we will not know about. The first day of October, Venus crosses his ascendant, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself now, but he's happy. Remember, when Venus enters your 1st house, you love you, and he's real pleased with himself at that point. Okay, I'm now going to share with you the United States chart, and you know that that's really important to combine. Excuse me I have a small space and lots of charts, so, okay. Let's talk about the United States chart. And remember, those of you who study astrology, the houses in a mundane chart are slightly different than in a personal chart. I'm going to start with the sun. And the sun starts off in our fourth house of real estate. I'm going to read these meanings to you. Some of you have asked me to please do that, and I will. Real estate, it deals with the Democrats, the party out of power. Domestic affairs, weather, good grief, look at the weather we've been having. Farmers, builders, the soil, land, crops, and seniors. It is in his fourth house, in the United States, fourth house, excuse me, bringing light to it. So this area has had help from the sun. On the 5th, the sun moves into the 5th house of the United States chart. And this is very interesting. The 5th house in the US chart deals with schools and children. And we know what's been going on there. It deals with sports. And we know what has been going on there. It brings a light to it. It gives it life. So far, sports, children, theaters, anything that's fun, congressional and public hearings, teachers, ties in with schools, and stadiums. And I used to look at this and think, stadiums? Well, now we understand it's tied in with sports. And so the sun enters the 5th house and stays there during September. It sits on Neptune. Interesting that Neptune is involved in both Trump's chart and the United States chart. And what this does is it either implements a dream or adds confusion to the mix. Yep, that's the truth. Okay. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. Now, I want to talk to you about the full moon and the new moon. The full moon on the 2nd is in our 10th house of our public image, of the president, of the party in power. And when it sits in that 10th house, it brings recognition for whatever it activates. So it is our public image and all of our leaders. And you notice I've drawn little dotted lines to Uranus and the United States ascendant. Those lines are squares. And the problem is, because the full moon is in 10 degrees of Pisces, it's squaring the ascendant and Uranus. And so whatever happens from on high, so to speak, is going to upset the populace. It's going to upset the people. And that's just what's so. And Uranus is explosiveness. It's rebellion. And so even though the president, now remember 10th house is president, may get a lot of recognition and credit, the people can easily react rebelliously. Okay, there is a new moon 2 weeks later, and I didn't put it in the chart, so I'm going to show you where it is. It's on the 17th in 2025 Virgo. Now, it's in the 5th house. Now, wherever the new moon is, it starts the energy moving forward. Remember what the 5th house rules? Kids, schools, teachers, sports, gambling, fun. There we go. There it is right there. And yes, it is going to activate this whole fifth house, and it's going to sit on Neptune. Yep. Which means we're either going to get a dream fulfilled or be confused. Fifth house, Neptune, divine inspiration or total confusion. What I have seen very often in an individual's chart is that Neptune is the dream come true. In the United States chart, we're dealing with millions of people. So we may get a mix, okay? And that's just what's up. Now, I want to go into the rest of the United States chart. Mars is retrograde until, well, it goes retrograde on the 10th. This is very interesting because it's in the 12th house. I'm trying to just get things that I have in my lap organized, and I'm not doing a real good job of it. Okay, here we go. Just bear with me here, so sorry. All right. So, in a mundane chart, the 12th house is all things hidden. It deals with spies, with bribery. I would say it deals with hacking, deals with our hidden enemies. And this can be the enemy within. It deals with prison, jails, hospitals, think COVID, criminals. It deals with charitable institution, with secrets of all types, and welfare. Mars is going to go retrograde in this 12th house. And it's going to, because it's retrograde, anything dealing with the definitions I just gave you is going to be on hold. And remember, when Mars is retrograde, nothing happens. After the election, after November 14th, Mars will go direct and will move forward. When it goes direct, it will be in the 11th house of Congress and congressmen and legislation. So Mars is going to go retrograde on the 10th. It's going to back up into the 11th house of legislative committees, congressional committees, the Treasury. So it will back up into the 11th house, go direct, then move back into the 12th. And when it crosses the ascendant, we'll talk, because that'll be next year. Venus, how lovely. Venus, the benefic, the lesser benefic, is sitting in the United States 3rd house. It deals with communication, correspondence, transportation, the news media, the mail, USPS. There's Venus, bringing love. So things in those areas can improve. It deals with schools also, and teachers, and public transportation, short distance transportation. It sits on Mercury, lots of communication on September 1st. And then on the North Node, which is the area of greatest success, on the 13th. So that looks terrific. On the 19th, Venus moves into our 4th house of real estate, land, the Democratic Party, weather, all domestic affairs, crops, farmers, builders. Okay. And then Mercury, let's talk about Mercury. Now, remember the sun is going to be in the United States' fifth house, sitting on Neptune. The new moon at the halfway point, sitting in our fifth house on Neptune. Mercury in our fifth house on Neptune and then Saturn. Again, this fifth house is coming into play big time, as well it should, because the whole conversation over virtual school or in-person school, our children's health, our sports. Sports are so important for the morale of the people. It's beyond me. And it also deals with congressional hearings. And I love the fact that it deals with stadiums and teachers, as well as kids, of course. So on the 1st, Mercury on Neptune, great new inspired ideas. On Saturn, looking very realistically at our children's situation, at the government, at our long distance interaction with people at a distance, foreign countries, and joint finances, the treasury, our debts, the death rate. All this is ruled by Saturn in the fifth house. And Mercury wants to know. It's curious. So there you go. And then Mercury is going to move into the sixth house and sit on the United States vertex. Remember, the vertex is our karmic role in life. Yes, countries have a vertex also. So what is the vertex in our sixth house deal with? The military, health, jobs, all civil servants, pets, food, animals, of course, in general, and naturally police and fire department, first defenders, people who put their lives on the line in service. That's what we're talking about. And there seems to be some change in the role that these people will play. This can be very beneficial on the 30th, very, very end of the month. That's what's going on. So I hope this makes sense to you. I am totally baffled by the news that I watch on TV. So I'm going to do what I did when I was CNN's on-air astrologer. Back in 1980, CNN asked me to please be their on-air astrologer, which was live TV, and I loved it. I explained to all the higher-ups that I would do forecasts, of course, but that I didn't watch the news on TV or read the newspaper. Remember the newspaper? We used to have an actual newspaper then. I just gave my predictions based on what I saw in the charts. What I have seen, what I've experienced, is that it is very painful for me physically to look at the charts of the people involved in our country's politics. It's just too upsetting. I'm an empath and I read the chart. And if I'm reading a chart of a beautiful person, it's uplifting. If the person is not beautiful, it is not. I am not uplifted. More importantly, I'm so concerned about our country, as I know many of you are. And people who are not citizens of the United States, who live elsewhere, I know that your hearts go out to us. You yourself may be living in a country where things are crazy, so you understand. So what I've decided to do is watch a minimum of news and just go back to reporting it astrologically. The stars do not lie. They tell it like it is, and I will tell it to you like I see it. And my track record in political prognostication back then was very accurate, and I assume it's going to be now. I do have the charts of the election for the election. No, I have not yet done Kamala's diurnal chart. I've been incredibly busy. I will have a chart for everybody on Kamala. I did one a couple of years ago, but I will actually focus on the election. Biden's chart does not have an accurate birth time. I've worked with it. So I'll look at Kamala's, and when that is ready, I will share it with you. So, dear friends, thank you for watching. Join me next month when, once again, we take a look at the United States chart and Trump's chart. So, till then, may the stars shine brightly on you, your friends, your family, and everybody on this planet.